traditional orchestrations.
Hey there, everybody. It's Shelly Palmer, and it is Strategy Hacker live stream. Welcome, everybody. It's 3 o'clock on the East Coast. I am hoping everyone can hear me okay. I'm hoping things are good where you are. It's one of the most gorgeous days here, and I'm excited to be here with you today. So welcome, everyone. We are on YouTube Live, we are on Facebook Live, and we are on LinkedIn Live. So if you are here with us, and it looks like a lot of you are, wow, okay, nice crowd. So let's check in on chat. If you are on YouTube, just say hi, tell me where you are, tell me who you are, and tell me what you do. Same thing on LinkedIn, same thing on Facebook Live. We didn't announce Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live as early as we normally do. So a lot of you are going to be sort of pleasantly surprised to find us here right now. But I hope you'll say hi on chat, and because chat is where the whole show happens. Yeah, things are great today. We are having such a good time here because for the first time in a little while, in fact, the first time I can remember, we're going to have a guest. Hey there, Chris Meyer from Las Vegas, welcome, and Jason from Huntington, welcome. We are going to have guests today, and my partner in crime, Seth Everett, who I do tech stream with. So we're gonna get together on the show in about 10 seconds. I just am waiting for all of you guys to show up and check in. And while we're doing that, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping just so we can, let's see, what can I tell you about? The thing I want to tell you about is the super fun that we are having with our salons. And it's just been one of these truly wonderful experiences. We have been doing salons for a really long time at the Palmer Group since the beginning of the pandemic. I know a lot of you have been with us, and it's just been spectacular. On Tuesdays at 11:05 to 11:30, we do leading edge technology, and it's a great group of people. We talk about, wait for it, leading edge technology. On Wednesdays, the thing that I am so proud of, my daughter Alexis, who is our executive vice president of client services and events, runs an amazing salon, Women Championing Women. It has become something remarkable. She's gotten some opportunities to do some speaking, and she's brought in some incredible guest moderators, and it's going gangbusters. And so if you get a minute, the credentials can be found at shellypalmer.com/salon. You just go and sign up there, and it's really a great group. And then tomorrow we do technology, media, marketing in our salons on excuse me, on Thursdays, and that's 11:05 to 11:30 every Thursday. So I hope you'll join us there. And yeah, it's really been quite an incredible time. You know, things are coming back now that COVID's kind of done, and yet salons are still incredibly full. So we're very, very happy to have all of you join us, and your credentials are waiting for you right there. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my good friend and my partner in crime, Seth Everett. Give me one sec to bring him in. Hey, Seth.
Gotta be ready, boy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you
that was quite an introduction, man. Wow.
Oh, you know, hey, it is what it is.
You should be driving tech stream now. I'm going to be Wally pipped. It's the Derek days, so I had to do that.
You know, it's funny, Seth. We have had you had some good news today because of the we're getting some numbers and all kinds of good things are happening. So that's really exciting. That's really exciting. The podcast is going well. Now, folks, just because it's me and Seth today doesn't mean that we don't want to take your questions, and doesn't mean that I don't want you to chat. So, and remember, everybody here, the chat is, of course, where it's all happening all the time. So you guys not only should introduce yourselves, you should tell us where you are, and you should interact with one another. LinkedIn folks, you will not see the YouTube chat. YouTube folks, you will not see the LinkedIn chat. And Facebook folks, you will not see either chat. And there's just nothing I can do about it. It's one of those unfortunate things. I can see all of them, but you can't see all of them, which is, sad. But anyway, I hope you will chat. Steve Bradbury, welcome. And Seth, you could, if you wanted to, you could go look at the chat on either YouTube or LinkedIn, or you could open up all three if you want. Seth, where are you today? Where are you sitting?
I'm in New Jersey, and we are here. This has been a studio that I built like 10 years ago, and ever since the pandemic happened, had to majorly upgrade, and that was how we came up with the idea for TechStream, because I said all the different things about tech that you're interested in should be a podcast, not a podcast for people who are already tech experts, because you guys know it all anyway. And it's not going to be for novices. It was never going to be like, how do I turn on my location services? It was just always going to be something for the masses. And I said, that's a cool story. And I remember reaching out to you, Shelly, and I said, do you know anybody who could help market a podcast I want to do? And then you said, well, who are you going to do it with? And I said, I don't know. And you said, well, why can't I do it? And I said, okay, put them in. And we did it, and we did a pilot, which I still think should air. And one of these weeks, let's take off and just air the pilot.
Yeah. And we did, and it did. Like we did, and it did. It was like, yeah, it was instant, like totally instant. And the numbers.
We've done 10 episodes now.
Which isn't that the death rate? Isn't that where podcasts go to die? Episode number 10.
Most podcasts are over after 10.
That's pretty much it, right? Yeah, you're just.
So we'll see if Tuesday hits.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the crypto market's been insane, and I've been spending an awful lot of special attention there. What I was going to do today, and we won't probably do it today, although we might. What I was going to do today is I was going to teach people about bot trading in crypto, like how you bot trade. What do you do with to create some robotic trading tools? And I'll tell you what's funny. I've been in this a long time, but everybody's gone insane now. So there's the market is going up and down every day in the most ridiculous ways. 10%, 15%. I'll go to bed at night. I'll be 5% up on my whole portfolio. Wake up in the morning, 10% down. Then it goes up 20% during the day, and then it's down to -3 before I go to bed. Then it's -10 when I wake up. Then it's like, if the stock market did this, people would I think they'd kill themselves. I mean, it's just nuts. You have to. This is volatile even for crypto.
But usually something happens to a company to make its stock, skyrocket or plummet. In crypto, it happens literally willy-nilly, no reason. There's nothing you can bank on, and it's nothing you can anticipate. I logged on before we did this, and it was up. But I logged on this morning, and it was down. And I'm thinking to myself, this would drive someone crazy. I mean, if you were literally putting your life fortune into this, I don't know how you don't have a heart attack.
Well, at the end of the day, you do. And, it's funny. There are a couple different thought processes, I guess. There are, like in the stock market, there are retail peeps, right? There's retail stock market. And then there's the institutional stock market. And then there's, I don't know, the super secret handshake stock market where like the smart people go who are, rich or rich enough or whatever.
We always have the nicest offices.
Yes. And then at the end of the day, the crypto markets aren't anything like the stock markets in that they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, worldwide, all the time. And there are no barriers to entry, and there's no one to tell you yes or no. If you can buy some crypto, you can trade it. And I found out a couple things this week that I thought were not true anymore, and they are true now. And I think it's problematic. Thing number one is a lot of the exchanges are being very diligent, really diligent about know your customer and whether you're allowed to trade in the US or not. So Coinbase, because they've gone public, they only let you do certain things. Binance, which is probably the largest cryptocurrency exchange, in the world, that you can't trade, or it's really frowned on. I don't think you can trade on Binance itself from the US. What you can do is they have a thing called Binance.us, which is their US crypto zone. But you can't trade in New York, Connecticut, or Vermont. Those are the three places I live. So I can't trade legally, or I guess legally. So what you can do,
unless you have a VPN, and then
but so there are limits, right? Like these.
But then you could also watch Yankee games in New York.
Well, by the way, the VPN thing makes all the sense in the world, with the exception of the fact that, and here's the crazy part, wait for it. So they'll let you goof around with about $300 a lifetime. But if you want to start to actually use any real money, they're going to say, well, we need to verify your identity. So please upload the front and back of your driver's license or your federal ID or your state ID. And then they go, okay, no, you can't live there. So if you're on a VPN, you say, well, I live in Canada. It's like, great. What's your tax ID in Canada? What's your address in Canada? It's like, oh, okay. So it's, unless you've got an address in a place where they will let you trade, you can't trade. And you'd think, okay, that's highly restrictive. And, it's going to cause people whatever grief it's going to cause people. And the IRS is going to get a chance to do whatever the IRS does. So, you can't trade on Binance or Binance US. FTX, on the other hand, which is another exchange offshore, they're not trading the US either. They have PGX.us. There's a difference. If you go to register there, you don't really need to register past a point. There's registration, but it's not robust registration. It's a username and password. They're not checking anything past a point, and they want you to sign in with a crypto wallet. Okay, that's easy. How do you put an investment into FTX? Well, the way you do it, Seth, is crazy. You send them either an ACH from your bank account.
Really?
Yeah. Or, wait for it, which, by the way, if you try to do, they tell you that unless you're, a know your customer, verified customer, they won't take your ACH, so you can't trade. Or, what's behind door number 2? USDT or USDC, which are the stable coins for the United States dollar stable coins, that they'll take with no ID. Oh, wait, how hard is this now? I don't know how they're ever going to get around this. So you go to any exchange in the United States where you can legally work. Coinbase is a good one. It doesn't matter where you go, and you take out all the USDT or USDC you want, which you are dollar for dollar stable against the US dollar. So $1 from your bank account buys $1 USDC or $1 USDT, right? Great. Rather than put it in a wallet that's a known wallet, you put it in one of the anonymous wallets like Coinami. And then you go on FTX and you buy you stake your trading account with USDT out of an anonymous wallet. You are now trading anonymously. I don't know how you get around that. It's not a loophole. It's a giant, you can't call that a loophole, Seth. You got to call that you could drive a truck through that.
Yeah, but how do you get it withdrawal then? If everything,
it's USDT. You pull it back into your anonymous wallet, and you feed it into whatever you want. It's United States dollars. I mean, I guess if you walked in, if you
you see where I'm going. You see where my brain went.
I know, but I guess if you took like, 1 million USDTs and you put them in Coinbase and said, I'd like those in cash, please. You put them back in JP Morgan Chase. Somebody might notice. Hello, David Charmont's in Denver. Somebody might notice. They might, but it's still like, that it's not legal to trade. Like cryptocurrency is 24/7, 365, and it's global. And there's really no way to undo that. Like, it's global. No, but look, the Chinese government's going to undo it, right? I mean, they're going to put the great firewall of China back up. But I don't know. It's just been a weird week because I've been doing all this like stuff. I was getting ready to show this our group, how to do, bot trading, which I think maybe we'll do next week. And we talk about it on the podcast because I wrote a bunch of algorithms. I'm I'm algorithm crazy. And I was trying to, the United States stock market, in here, the New York Stock Exchange and Chicago Board of Trade and NASDAQ and actually, to be fair, any stock exchange anywhere isn't volatile like this. Right. There are strategies, and I'm not a professional trader. I don't do any of that, but I do know, I've been to algorithm school. I know what some of the approaches are, there's a regress to the mean and Bayes rule and what have you. I was watching the stock market go up and down, the crypto market go up and down, that kind of thing. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what's a dollar cost average long strategy against something that's bopping up and down like faster than you could set your watch to it. So I wrote a bunch of algorithms and I thought, how do you test it? Like, how do you test the theories about any of this stuff? And so there's a couple of sites that are, you can take your algorithms and you can translate them into action very, very simply without writing a lot of code. And there's a couple sites that I found where you can take the code that you wrote either in Python or in Java. And I think there's one that was even taking JSON strings, and you can take and the algorithms will execute. So I got all excited. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna write like a dollar cost average long bot and see what happens. I'm gonna write like a multivariant, like short-term profit taker grabber bot. I'm gonna write a regress to the mean bot. I just decided to write a bunch of these different bots and see what happened. And I wanted to play with live ammo, so to speak. So I $500 in this thing and $150 in this thing. And just, and I'm going after fractional percentages, like, okay, I want to earn 2% or 1.5%. That's all I want out of this thing. So buy and sell the stuff that's moving. And I really had some fun with it. And I wanted to show people about it because I think the grownups, not me, by the way, but the people who do this for a living, I think there are millions of those bots trading. Millions in crypto. Well, 24 hours a day.
Did you see the story this morning? Norton is updating its Life 360 products to include mining.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say was my initial reaction, this is what happens when you do 10 episodes of a podcast with Shelly Palmer. I immediately said, oh, this is such a scam. This is such a scam. Like, there's no way you would use your main computer to mine anything. You would only use a computer that you'd throw in the garbage. That's what episode 7 of TechStream said. But Norton's article, when the CNET articles came out, immediately I said, oh, this is going to be a topic. Because if you're telling me that my computer can do it easy and all it's going to take is electricity, well, hell, it's the summer. My electricity bill's going to go up anyway.
Right.
It's not going to be because of crypto.
No. I'll tell you what's interesting, Seth. I read that article this morning and last night. It's the nature of big corporate. So Norton 360 is the product from Norton LifeLock. And that's the combination company of Norton Utilities and LifeLock, and they all got together to create this big pile of value, blah, 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 blah.
And Windows and Mac both say you don't need it.
Correct. Yeah, because, Microsoft's got some antivirus built in, and yeah. But anyway, we'll leave that for another day. Well, that's a good text stream.
That would be a great text stream.
Yeah. I'll take you through the redonkulousness of malware protection and where the commercial products whose names fail and where the commercial products whose names you don't know you should pick, like what you should actually get. We'll do a whole episode about that. But here's what caught my interest. The idea of mining Ethereum, mining Ether, ETH, is going to be good till about August. That's when
it gets too hot.
No. EIP 1559 is the document that goes into the network update that goes into effect in July 2021. And it's going to move the Ethereum blockchain from proof of work to proof of stake. And, we've talked about those before, right? Proof of work, you've got mining software that's solving a mathematical puzzle. And if you are part of a mining pool, then you're throwing in your CPU cycles, or in this case, really GPU cycles, because you can't mine Ether or Bitcoin. You can't mine them using CPUs. There isn't enough CPU power in your computer. You have to use your graphics processing unit. So, but all that ends by the end of 2021. So here they are saying, you can do it. It's like, the pro miners are going to be down 30% in profit because they'll still have to write some blocks, but it's going to be a hybrid. There'll be proof of stake for most of the blockchain. It's called layer 2 solutions. It's the optimism layer of Ethereum will show up. And then we're going to start seeing shorter transaction times and much lower transaction fees, called gas fees. And so it's so funny to me. It's like, here's a big corporation saying, get ready, you can mine. It's like, okay, just when it's time to stop doing it. It's like, really, guys? Yeah, right. This is right now? You're like, okay, if that's what it is, that's what it is. Makes no sense to me. But you know what? That's big corporate. It just screams, live, adapt or die, and test, fail, learn, fail, test, fail, learn. Go, iterate. You have to, sure. Right? You have to iterate. So what's new in the world of sports? What did I miss while I was heads down playing with bots?
Well, technology has taken over press conferences in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's become stressful. Some people love it. Some people would rather do 5 minutes on Zoom, tell you how I struck out 3 times and move on. And that's a welcome thing. Naomi Osaka doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And she's completely right in the way she thinks. She gave a mixed message, and I thought it was a really mixed message because it was less than 24 hours after she had been fined for missing a mandatory media session. But what her message really was about is how she hasn't recovered from the stress of being booed out of the stadium at the United States Tennis Center in 2018.
Yeah.
And what do you notice how in this social media world, people didn't read the whole thing that she wrote? That's what she was talking about. I do not think she withdrew from the French Open because she didn't want to go on Zoom for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. She can handle Zoom. I think that she had been dealing with anxiety, and I take that stuff very seriously because unless you walk a minute in their shoes, you are not in a position to ever tell an athlete how they feel.
Yeah.
And I hate that attitude of, well, these athletes, they make millions of dollars, so they should just do it and dance monkey. And that rubs me the wrong way. And I just thought Naomi Osaka was the first person to start wearing masks that said Black Lives Matter. She feels passionate about whatever stance she's taking. And now this one is for her. And I think we should all just back the hell off.
No, I couldn't agree more. And, it's interesting. We're living in a strange culture, where people have names for it. People say, it's cancel culture. It's this, it's that, it's the next thing. Sure. Yeah, there's some of that. But at the end of the day, we've become a little more humanist than we were back in the day. A lot more, actually. And feelings matter, and people are entitled to them. And apparently, some of the people who are screaming for tolerance in a way that, you would, they're pretty adamant about it, are the least tolerant human beings. I mean, come on, guys. If you're going to scream for tolerance, then be tolerant, right? I mean, you practice what you preach. It hasn't really happened in a way that's meaningful. And I really feel for a lot of the public figures now, it's hard. Look, we put out a big email. We do a big email list every day. It's a giant list. And
yes, the text stream mentions are welcome.
And thank you. And it's a good thing that I grew up in the music business. It's a good thing I grew up in, selling music for a living, because that teaches you to have a persona and a personality that are separate, right? The business persona, you go in to sell somebody a piece of music, and I saw Howie Schwartz just came on the chat. Howie
his eyeballs just bulged out.
Well, because
What?
at Howard Schwartz Recorders in the Gray Bar building at circa 1982, when I was just getting out on my own, I'm sitting in one of the studios there, and a client from J. Walter Thompson is in to listen to the demos I've created in Howie's studio. This is before I had my own really full up studio. I had a project studio in my apartment, but Howie had studios you could rent, and it was by J. Walter Thompson.
I've done shows from there. Yep.
Yeah, they were at 466 Lex. So it was really right up the block from Howard Schwartz Recorders, which was fine. And the particular producer listens for a second, stone face, and goes, "Oh man, that sucks." Now, what he meant. Gary Bass, if you're listening, fuck you. Oh, sorry. No, I'm just kidding. What he meant was, Shelly, I have evaluated the piece of music you've just created, and I've considered it in the context of the communication I'm trying to produce and create. And thinking about the audience that I'm trying to gather and serve, what you have composed is not necessarily what I think is going to work best. Perhaps you could rework this with the following suggestions, because it's a good start, but not quite where I need it to be. That's what "that sucks" means. But if you take it at face value, "that sucks," and enough people tell you that in a given day, well, because no matter how much you do music that you believe you're just a professional composer, at the end of the day, music is an emotional tool that you use. And the fact that I could earn a living doing it didn't mean that I wasn't putting a little bit of me in there, no matter how much I want to mask it. When you take someone who is an actor or an actress or an athlete, and the athletes, because they can't hide anywhere, right? That's who they are. And you go at them like that, they're not. I mean, they don't go to work as two separate personas. They go to work as an athlete trying to be professional, do their best. At least me, I had a way to put up a wall and say, like, but Seth, if you read the emails, if I mention something that sounds like politics, or that's rubbing someone the wrong way, or someone takes as a...
But that was impossible to cover sports during the pandemic.
I'm going to get in trouble now. A couple of years ago, I got yelled at because I put Black Friday specials in the newsletter, tech specials. And I was told that it was pejorative for black people. And I got railed at.
Well, because they call it Black Friday?
I'm like, I didn't even know how to answer it. I didn't know how to respond. I'm like, and the woman who wrote to me is completely entitled to her opinion. The drubbing that I took was insane from my perspective, but you had to respect the fact that this particular person who was writing to me didn't know what she didn't know about where the origins of the word Black Friday was. In no way was it pejorative to anybody. It was about being in the black, and it's like, okay, look what. Right. Things change, the world evolves, but yeah, I really feel for some of the athletes today, and actually anybody in the public eye. I mean, you and I are so famous that like no one ever bothers us. But imagine if we actually were famous, things would suck.
It was funny. In 2018, after Naomi Osaka beat Serena Williams, I was working on a project with Nissan. I cover Formula E, and the electric car racing, and Nissan is an entry team in there. And they asked me to take a bunch of pictures for social media driving a Nissan Leaf for a month. Yeah. And the funny part is every picture I had was at a charging station because that thing couldn't hold a charge. And I said, I don't know if you want these pictures up. But Naomi Osaka had just become a spokesperson for Nissan. So I reached out to the same PR people and I said, hi, I have a podcast called Sports with Friends. She's the new U.S. Open champ. I didn't know her from anything. Yeah. And they wrote me this really heartfelt, and they said, please take this in the tone it is meant. She's only doing mandatory interviews. Wow. She's not comfortable talking to people she doesn't know. And please understand, maybe later on, but I still want to work with you. Like it was a nice rejection, but you fast forward now 2 years ago and imagine the agony she's going under from being in the public eye when how many people are in the USTA? 17,000 people in that stadium booing her because Serena Williams had lost that event. And remember, Serena lost her cool, and Naomi was the winner. No one knew that Naomi Osaka was going to be this champion, but think about the agony that she was going through this whole time. It's not just the trophies. There's more to it.
Yeah. No, there is. And look, on balance, and I don't know how I honestly don't know how I feel about this anymore. I used to be very high on social media, meaning that I thought that it had the capacity to do immense good. And Facebook is a client, and I have a lot of friends at Twitter. I have a lot of friends at LinkedIn, which is less objectionable, I guess, than some of the others. Seth, on balance, I think social media is a net negative planetarily. And it's interesting. Twitter this week, they started with this warning. Did you see that? The warnings Twitter's putting up? They're testing this warning system, and there's 3 warnings. The first warning, I'm going to throw this up for everyone to see real quick, and so it'll just take us off the screen for a second. But I just want to show
somebody in the chat's going, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. No. By the way, I could fully and completely appreciate that. But pardon me, Seth, as we move ourselves. So there's 3 warnings here, right? There's this idea that there's 3 levels. The one that interests me the most is misleading at the end, right? So the stay informed, where they give you a link to something where they're kind of saying, this kind of, but stay informed. All right, get the too early ones.
Turtles wrong.
Yeah, but this little thing at the bottom, misleading, that one gets to me, and so they're just testing it. She wrote a tweet, and the tweet was like, "People eat, turtles eat, therefore people are turtles." Right? I mean, which is in the
sarcasm, I hope.
So it's that's an illicit minor syllogism fallacy. Like syllogistic fallacy. It's you learn that in college. I mean, it's just you just do. If you take any logic at all. And I was surprised to learn, actually, I went to look up what grade you learn logic in. And the only logic taught in the public school system today is mathematical logic. They don't teach any of the rhetorical or any logical argument. They don't teach any of that in any grade in the public school system. And I don't even know how that's possible. And I think I learned this stuff in 9th grade English class. It might have been 10th grade. The book was by S.I. Hayakawa, The Nature of Language. And then there was the rest of the year, after we got through that book, like in the first semester, the whole rest of the year was in logical fallacies and logical arguments and syllogistic. Like I thought it was grade school. Maybe it was college. I don't remember. I'm that old. But anyway, this thing is a very common kind of logical fallacy, and there's no way in the world that a computer is parsing that. Like, there's no algorithm that's parsing logical fallacies like that. It's not going to happen. Because computers, like when you do speech recognition, it pattern recognizes the words and maybe a sentence. Now, they went into neural networks, and they went even deeper. We had Barak Turovsky, who runs Translate for Google, in our CES stuff this year, and he was talking about BERT and the algorithmic tools they're using now and the models that they're using, both in the search engine and also in Google Translate. And they're hoping to get to a full paragraph sometime in the next couple of years. So the idea that a computer would take any sentence and have a context for it is nonsense. It's nonsense. So misleading, how would you know? How would you know?
Yeah, but are they? Do you have any idea how any of these social media companies are getting, like, how many people are reporting anything they see on social media that is the tiniest bit of controversial after what happened with the former president. If you think about the fact that Twitter took a stand, whether you're pro the stand or against, that's not the point of this discussion. But once Twitter did that, they probably their inbox is flooded with people who are saying, that's a bad tweet, report this tweet, flag this tweet, go to this tweet. And they have to do something to react or else they'll pop. And what I'm thinking, if you look at anything you see on social media, you have the option to report it. How many people do?
I
would think by the millions.
So, I do a video pretty much every day. A few weeks ago, I did one on Utah's new anti-porn laws.
Yes, I saw that.
And YouTube took it down and told me I was violating community standards about pornography. I'm like, and you have to do the appeal, and it takes weeks. And if you have another demerit during that time, then that's another strike. You lose your YouTube account. I'm like, wow, okay. There's no one to go see. The computer kicked it out, right? I'm saying computer because I hate this. The algorithm kicked it out. I don't need to sound that technical.
Right, I know.
Not that technically insecure. But it got kicked out, and nobody. And they send you a little note, send you a lovely note. Hey, you've done this bad thing, and I'm like, no, we didn't do anything bad, guys. Did you bother to listen? Of course they didn't, because the computer doesn't listen or understand. And so this is my whole point. It's like it's completely out of context. It just took the set of phrases. There were some parts of that report, because it's an anti-pornography regulation that the legislators did. There were words in there that would be red flag words, but I guess that's the whole point. There's no way.
There's no context. No context. But and I told you this story on TechStream. I worked with Prince back in 2013, and we were working for a freelance company, a startup company rather, called Spreecast. And the only way to play music on Spreecast was to upload something to YouTube. Mm-hmm. Prince literally played something for us and sent us the MP3. This was never released. It's not in any music catalogs. He gave it to us and said, please play this. And it got flagged by YouTube. I literally had to email him and say, we can't play your thing because they know it's you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And by the way, this
I was
is
just like,
get worse.
Do you go through the appeal process for something? No, you don't.
No, there's nothing you can do. And look, this is like fighting City Hall, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Hey, folks who are listening out there, thank you for some of the comments so far. Just because Seth and I are chatting today, yes, we are shamelessly promoting TechStream, our award-winning, blow your mind, wow, it's so cool, Seth and Shelly Talk podcast, which drops every Tuesday on Apple and on where else does it drop? It's on Amazon, it's on Apple, of course. It's on Spotify and Google Play, right? Yeah, it's all those places. So yeah, we're shamelessly plugging that. But so I will unapologetically just say that we're having a good time plugging that. But I'd like you guys to definitely keep the chat robust, because this is important to me, and we will actually happily answer any questions you put there. I see you guys are mostly talking amongst yourselves, which is great, but you can talk to us. Seth is here, I'm here. Seth is a sports expert. He's also a pop culture maven. I know a little bit about technology, media, and marketing, enough to and you know what else I know a little bit about, apparently, Seth, and this is this one I will actually this is flat out a plug. So, yeah, this is still number one in short business reads on Money and Business. And it's top 10 in money and banking and monetary policy. It's about a week old. I'm donating all of my proceeds to Girls Who Code. This is a $2.99 lift, folks. It's not heavy. For those of you who are on listening today who left wonderful reviews, thank you. To the person who left me a 4-star review but said it was a good book, but wasn't organized like a book. It says in the inside it's a collection of essays. So yeah, it's not organized like a book. It's organized like a collection of essays to get you to a point to help you think about blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, and smart contracts. It is, in fact, an executive guide to the world of decentralized finance. And for $2.99, it delivers. But more importantly, it will not only help you, you'll be helping the Girls Who Code organization create a pipeline of female engineers, which are desperately needed. You know, we are a strategy consulting organization at the Palmer Group, and we do tech strategy and solutions. And I will tell you with absolute certainty and pure conviction and no hyperbole and no exaggeration of any kind, the more diverse your staff is, the more diverse your meetings are, the more diverse your organization is, the more it reflects the customer base and the more it reflects the culture that we live in, the greater company you're going to have. So it is important. I've tried to find a diverse group of engineers, and there just aren't a lot of engineers coming from places you wouldn't expect. All the usual suspects. We hire every engineer we can hire. I'm not saying we don't. We do. But we need a pipeline, and I think it's important. I am a father of a daughter. I am a grandfather of 3 granddaughters, and I want them to grow up in a world where it is as likely that they will become nuclear physicists or engineers or business leaders or anything they want to become, and that there's no sort of like stigma around, oh, girls don't do that. No, girls do everything. That's why we do Women Championing Women on Wednesdays, and that's why I really strongly believe Girls Who Code is a great organization, because they have a standardized mission. They're going to create a pipeline of female engineers. You know what? I could use a pipeline of female engineers because they're all going to perform according to their gifts. They're not all going to be great. Some are going to suck. It's okay. You need a lot of them. By the way, there's plenty of guys that say they're engineers and they suck. There's just more guys than girls. And I want everyone who wants to be able to code to be able to get that education right now. Now, by the way, if you know somebody who wants to be an engineer, if you know somebody who feels like that, they have some extra time and they just don't know what to do, and maybe they can't afford night school, or they don't have the ability to go back to formal education. freecodecamp.org has an immense number of amazingly good tutorials. They're all free online, and it will take you only minutes to go to YouTube and find whatever language you want to code in. Solidity is the language that smart contracts are written in. React is probably one of the most popular languages for front end. But JavaScript, which is what React is a framework over, just go get deep in JavaScript. Go get deep in Python. These are languages that will serve you. Get it on your resume. Honestly, all of these courses are free. So instead of watching TV or catching a movie, if you give yourself, a half hour a day or 20 minutes a day just going after this. The only trick with coding, it's like playing an instrument. It's so much like playing an instrument. Like I practice every day music, and I practice every day my software, my engineering. Not that I want to be an engineer. I don't. Not that I am an engineer. I'm not. I'm just someone who has to interface with engineers constantly. I like to stay up on it. You can't let this thing go for 2 weeks and come back to it. It's any more than you can not sit down at the piano for 2 weeks and expect to be able to play the same way, or not play golf for 2 weeks and expect to come back and have anything that resembles a short game. This needs to be done every day. So 10 minutes a day is better than 3 hours on a Saturday. And that's the only thing I'll tell anybody, but this stuff is all free. And it's good to have a formal education, but if you can't, any education is going to do right now. And then, Seth, what we always talk about, man, side hustle. Just build something you're passionate about.
Sure.
Just build something.
You mentioned you have 3 granddaughters. I have 2 daughters, 12 and 9, and they are obsessed with Roblox and Minecraft.
Yeah, fantastic.
But think about what they're doing. They're building things. And, you say when we were kids, they didn't want us to sit in front of the TV. These kids rush to the TV to put their phones on the TV to show them the glorious things that they built on these programs. That's all what you're talking about. That's all that skill set. That's not couch potato stuff. That's really, really encouraging stuff.
It's important. I mean, it's and when I was first getting the opportunity to teach young people music, I never was a music teacher. My mom and dad were music educators, but I ended up, once you reach a certain point in your life, you end up doing, SimCity, Howie Schwartz, that's right. You end up doing a little more teaching, because you can. What I realized, and I didn't, you only really start to respect and love the teachers you had as a kid in a more deeper, profound way when you have to teach somebody something and you realize how hard it is to teach somebody something and communicate something in a meaningful way. But if you do exercises that are boring, you're going to bore people and you're going to make them sad, and they're going to be turned away from something because they don't, I've always said that technical superiority is the key to artistic freedom. You can play sloppy, but you should play sloppy on purpose. You shouldn't play sloppy because you can't play well. And if you can play something in a very orderly and neat fashion, then you have the freedom to mess up where you want and to put as much emotion into it. But if you don't have the skills to play, you don't have the skills to play. You have all the emotion in the world if you can't communicate it, if you don't have the muscle memory. So you try to make this stuff as interesting as possible. And I didn't come to appreciate how much fun my music teachers made music for me. So when I sit down with people to try and teach code, it's like the first thing you want to say to somebody is pick a passion project. What's a problem you want to solve? Like, what do you want to solve? Like, what piece of software needs to exist in the world that you could make, that you care about? And all of a sudden it's a different thing, right? So if you just pick a passion project and figure out how to solve it, be awesome. That's my sort of advice to every young person that's trying to get it, to switch jobs and try to take advantage of what's happening technologically. You are a competent engineer. You will. Do
you have to be young to switch jobs?
No, as a matter of fact, you don't. What you have to be is open-minded and willing to color with whatever crayons in the box. Crayola Crayons has this incredible piece of data that I came across years ago. Before the modern era, Nicholas Negroponte at Media Lab at MIT had a project that I thought was magnificent. It was called One Laptop Per Child. And this was a low-cost computer that it had a hand crank on it for power. It was solar powered. It had an LCD. It lasted forever. It had a little bit of everything, a word processor, a little music program in it. It had like all this stuff, and it just wanted to get them out. Now, of course, nowadays it doesn't make sense because the smartphones are more powerful by 10 orders of magnitude than that was. But at the time, it seemed like it was a brilliant idea. It had a little music sequencer in it. And that was something that I have a lot of expertise in because I built some of the very first ones ever. And they knew that, and they invited me up. And they asked me a really interesting question that I did not have the answer to and went seeking, which was, why did this music program that was sort of a gamified music program not get people to the next level? It's like people who play Guitar Hero never became guitarists. But they love guitar and they play air guitar, and then they were playing Guitar Hero, but they never went to guitar. Like, why? Like, what was the block? And I for the life of me,
Whipple ball to baseball.
I couldn't, I'm like, wow, that is a profoundly interesting question. Like, why can't I get this person who's like super psyched about making sounds to make better sounds with more sophisticated equipment, or sit down and, well, it turns out the people at Crayola were two or three studios down at MIT Media Lab, the crayon people. And I got all excited. So I went in there, I was talking to them, and they asked me what I was there working on. And I said, I'm working on the One Laptop Per Child program, blah, 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 blah. And what's fascinating to me, this is the thing, and I'm really fascinated by this. And the woman who was in charge of their project said, well, that's easy. I'm like, really? Okay, go. Like, tell me. She goes, when you're 6 years old, you transition. And I'm like, to what? And she says, when you're 6 years old, you transition. Up until 6, you are the center of the actual universe. There is nothing else. Like, nothing else on this planet exists except for you. And you have no idea that anyone is judging you or has any clue about you, and you have no clue about them. But right around 6 years old, she said between 5 and 7, but right around 6 years old, you see kids starting to go away from grabbing any color, and they start to go to just a few crayons, and then they start to draw and then they stop. and they won't do it again because they know their work is being judged by their peers and it's beyond their capacity to function creatively.
Sure.
And I'm like, wow, I tested that thesis. I tested that theory. I went and explored that. I couldn't believe that I, in my own mind, was still young at heart, young of mind. I would sit down to write a piece of music. I'd grab a big 2-liter bottle of Diet Pepsi and a pencil sharpener and some pencils and music paper. And I'd sit at the dining room table and get a metronome going. And my cat Mozart would sit across the score paper at the top. And I just thought I was letting my mind go free at the time. I would write whatever I had to write for the next morning and hand it off to the park copyists late at night. And
Right.
I didn't in any way think I was restricting my creativity or my thinking by putting, do I care if people judge me? A, yes, I was. And B, wow, was that a bad thing to do? And you have to fight it when you're grown up, because unlearning that, unfeeling the ability, like if I make a mistake, if I play a wrong note, if I'm not dressed perfectly, if I don't do this right, people are going to laugh at me or say something on social media or bully me. It's like, you're not going to create shit if that happens. If that's between you and it. So if you go at any age to sit down and you go to write a piece of like a piece of software, you're going to go write an app, or you're going to write, some code to do something, and you make a mistake and people see it and you're afraid of that, you're screwed. Like you have to come to this saying, I don't know anything. I'm a child. I want to come at this with a child's mind, and I want to be very plastic about my ability to do stuff. Yeah, you're going to be great at it. But if you put all that like grown up stuff between you and it, you got to make mistakes. You got to you can't, when you design the user experience for your app, when you design the front end, you can't do it with the 3 crayons worrying if someone's watching. You got to just do it and be cool when someone says that sucks. Because what they mean is, for the purpose for which I am trying to employ you to do this app, it's not quite fit for the purpose.
But the best example of that is every time either Windows or Apple tells you to update your device, there's always an article that comes out the next day on a bug.
Yeah.
And they beta tested, they tested, and it never fails. If you go to a new operating system, anything updated, it immediately comes back. Yeah. Crayola, by the way, they have the Crayola factory in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Hurricane Sandy, we took our kids, we fled, and we got out of town. Our whole block had lost power. We went to Crayola. The whole thing about the history of crayons, you could do it in 30 minutes.
Was it cool?
For 30 minutes, yeah. I was like, more coloring. We're doing more. It's one of the great Paul Reiser lines. Paul Reiser, great comedian, where he said, when you're a parent, you're supposed to be able to know stuff. Like, when you remember asking your dad, they always knew stuff. Mm-hmm. And he says, so what happens if a kid comes up to you and says, how do they make crayons? Well, he says, they have wax from bees, and then they color them with crayons they had from before.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Look, I think that we don't always think about how things come to be. Like my mother used to make a joke about steak coming from the store in plastic wrap. Right. And, but it's not a joke if you live in this city and all of your food comes from the supermarket and all of your things are prepackaged, and the idea of self-sufficiency really hit home when COVID started, because a lot of people, including us, were like, when there was, the first month or so of the pandemic, I was lucky enough to be able to go up to Vermont, and we were wondering if there were going to be supply shortages of food. Now, a lot of the people that are our neighbors during bear season hunt bears, dress them, and put them in the freezer. And during deer hunting season, they go hunt deer and they dress them and they harvest the meat and they put them in the freezer. And one of the caretakers at the condo association that we live in up in Vermont, he stopped by and he's like, "Do you guys need any food?" And I was like, "Well, no, we're good so far." "What do you mean?" Well, no, I've got like a couple of big commercial freezers in the garage filled with stuff that we usually use, for the winter, and you're welcome to it. It was the sweetest thing ever. But this guy was like, he was they were okay like every winter, and they did it crazily because he enjoys the hunting and they like the food, but they also, in his mind, save money because the groceries are so expensive based on what he does for a living, and his wife doesn't work, and he's got 7 kids or something. I mean, it's like whatever circumstances are, but it was the most generous thing. And we have talked subsequently about this self-sufficiency. Like, are you self-sufficient? Could you feed your family if you couldn't go to Whole Foods or whatever, Stop and Shop or whatever? And the answer is, in New York City, no.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. No. So yeah. Anyway, I think, look, we've rambled all over the place today. The stuff that is interesting to me right now, Seth, is has more to do, honestly, with what's about to happen than what has happened, right? We're coming into a new world. Everybody says this is over. It may be close to over. Travel's going to be different. You're going to go now as a big surge, but business travel, maybe it'll come all the way back. I don't think so. And I think, we had a client today we were talking to. Their salespeople are more efficient now because they can see people on Zoom they would never have been able to afford to go see in person. And they needed a personal contact, and a phone call wasn't going to do it. But because they could do a full demonstration and they could look each other in the eye, they're thinking 20% more sales were closed. It's like, they're not going to give that up. So they're not going to get on a plane.
And from entertainment, Broadway is going to sell out for years on end. Sporting events, people have this new appreciation for sporting events.
Absolutely.
They're going to do well. I think movie theaters are screwed, and I hate to say it.
Yeah,
I can't see. I'm fully vaccinated. I don't think about COVID anymore. I don't have a reason to go to a movie theater.
Yeah,
there's nothing coming out that's going to push me to a movie theater. I don't know how they survive what they have lost.
The only thing that may keep them alive is that the motion picture industry really likes the cash, right? Because the cash that comes out of the theatrical release window is big for them. But I couldn't agree with you more. I thought the experience has gone
before the pandemic,
down,
and now it just hit the accelerator on that.
Yeah. And David Friedman's right. I think office buildings with elevators are going to be kind of an issue. And one of the things, look, I've learned what's important to me in a way I never thought old dog, new tricks. I mean, come on, man. It's like, do I want to go in every day? No. Everyone's going to adjust their schedules. And I think people who can are going to try and figure out other approaches, and we'll see how it all goes. I'm excited that I've been out to dinner 2 times the last week.
Nice.
I'm going out to dinner tonight with a couple of friends. Everybody's vaccinated. The restaurants are in good shape. It's like, the first time I went, I was like scared. I was like, oh my God, I'm like agoraphobic. Can I, it's like, now it's like, you know what? We're back. So,
but you and I haven't actually met in person ever.
That's right.
That's going to be such a letdown. I'm telling you, we'll get together. I hope we get to 20 episodes by the time we see each other in person.
Oh, that's outstanding. Jeffrey, you are 100% right. Yes, without movies, where will the teenagers go for date night? And that is a very polite way to say it. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, this is a G-rated show, so we'll just leave it there, or kind of G-rated, except for my 2 outbursts today. Seth, I really appreciate you coming on today. By the way, folks, in case you haven't noticed, a whole different kind of graphical look today. We are here. I've been doing all kinds of like really crazy technological things to make this all work in an interesting, seamless way. New templates, new ways to bring in feeds from various kinds of from Teams and Zoom and vMix itself, and we're just doing all kinds of crazy. So I really appreciate everyone being here today, and thank you for being in chat, and Facebook people and LinkedIn people. Thank you to YouTube guys. You're always the best. we're trying to be great at this, and the only way to do that is to play with live ammo. So while I am never going to be great at this, the idea is to get the tech into a flawless place, and because we're constantly just trying to make this happen and make this happen. So the only way to do that is for us to interact with you. And thank you everybody for hanging out with us today. And Seth, thank you for being here, because you being in that second box right there is a giant help to me. Love just love the fact that you had the hour to spend, and I really appreciate it. Everybody, look,
Thank you for having me. Just not the 3.5 hours of testing, please. We don't have to test this out for 3.5 hours. I mean, some of us have to get out in the world.
It's true. It's absolutely true. All right, Seth, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be back next week with another edition of, no, actually, I won't be back next week. I'll be back the week after. But so just watch for your events and watch for your notifications. You can join us at shellypalmer.com at any time. At Shelly Palmer is where to tweet if you need to get to me. You all know that. And of course, you can always get me via email. All of you are absolutely welcome to email me, Shelly at shellypalmer.com. That's my email address. And certainly if you are, any questions, anything you want to know about, anything we can help you with, you let me know. And I will be very, very happy to help you out with your questions and to answer, whatever you got. So thanks again for being here. And we will see you all, a week after next, and maybe at a new time. It's possible we're going to be doing noon lunch and learns, and it's possible we're going to be going all crypto all the time. But until then, we will see you very, very soon. Thank you. Take care.